right, I call this meeting to order. This is the May 11th, 2022 meeting of the Planning Commission. First, we'll have the roll call.
Jim Beneke,
Here.
Jessica Kraft,
Here.
Matt Ekholm,
Here.
Michael Salzer,
Here.
Tom Weber,
Here.
Joffrey Wilson. Here.
Next, we'll have the approval of minutes. We have minutes from April 6th of this year. Is there any discussion? Or a motion?
I move we approve the minutes.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Go right into our hearings then. The first hearing will relate to the Exchange to Medical Office. And here we have a new presenter, Jeff Miller.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm going to present the planning case for the Exchange 2 Medical Office development, which is located on Wayzata Boulevard, just west of the first building that was built out on Wayzata Boulevard. The application's for a preliminary and final plat, and also a conditional use permit for development in the floodplain. The address of the property is 6301 Wayzata Boulevard. As I said, just west of the new building that's out there already. And the developer is the same developer as that building. It's the Davis Group. The location's just off of 394. It's visible from 394, but actually on Wayzata Boulevard. It's 1.23 acres. It's 5 properties today, 1 on Wayzata Boulevard, 3 along Colorado Avenue, and then the 5th one being on Dakota Avenue. So almost a block. The existing conditions, these photos show what's out there today. The top right photo is showing the front of the building that's on Wayzata Boulevard. It's looks like a 1-story building. On the other side, it's a 2-story building. You can see that down in the lower left-hand corner. And then the other building's on the south side of the property or the block. And that's a 1-story building. Looks like it was originally an industrial building. And they each have parking lots attached to them. The zoning is the office district. There is a travel demand management overlay district. And that's related to I-394. And the intensity of this development does not meet the threshold to have to do anything extra within that district. And then the floodplain overlay district is also on this property. So the development proposal is for a medical office building. As I said, similar to the one to the west, although it's substantially smaller than that building, and the property is much smaller. It's 17,000 square feet of office space. It's larger in square feet if you include the indoor parking on the lower level. It's 2 stories, includes 80 parking spaces, 53 surface outdoor spaces, and 27 underground spaces. 2 buildings and 2 parking lots will be removed as part of redeveloping the site. Access to the building will be off of Colorado and Dakota. You can see in the graphic on the right-hand side into the parking lot, and then there will be a door on the lower level that will bring you up to the main level facing Wayzata Boulevard. And then there's also a driveway to the parking underground from the south side. So the primary entrances are on the south for both walking in and driving in, and then there's an entrance on the north as well. The designed outdoor recreation area includes an outdoor patio areas, green spaces, and paths. And they're located on the north side which is most visible. They're also on the south side near the entrance into the building, and then on the east side along Colorado Avenue. So as far as zoning in the office district, the proposal is meeting or exceeding the requirements. A medical office use is permitted in the office district. It's meeting the floor area ratio maximum, building height, and the yard or setback requirements. The exterior building materials that are proposed are meeting the requirements for at least 60% of Class 1 materials. This slide's showing the landscaping plan. The proposal meets or exceeds the minimum number of trees and shrubs. It is meeting the designed outdoor recreation area, or DORA, and it is meeting the stormwater management requirements. Vehicle parking proposed is 80 spaces, as I said earlier, and the requirement is to have at least 77 spaces. In addition, they are proposing 4 electric vehicle charging stations, 2 indoor, I believe, and 2 outdoor. They're also proposing conduit to be put in place for 39 future stations, and that meets the city's minimum. Bicycle parking, they're proposing 10 spaces, which meets the requirement of 8. So the first application is the preliminary and final plat. The request is to approve that. It involves combining 5 lots into 1 lot. The plat will be the Xchange Medical Office Building 2, and it'll just be 1 lot, 1 block, 1.23 acres and 50,000 square feet. Drainage and utility easements will be part of the plat, 5 feet on the internal property lines and 10 feet along the right-of-way. There will be an additional easement that's required for the sidewalk along Colorado Avenue. The right-of-way does not have enough space to fit the full sidewalk, and so the plat will have that easement to accommodate the portion of the sidewalk that does not fit into the right-of-way. The second application is a conditional use permit because they're proposing development within the floodplain. The request is to allow the structured parking below the regulatory flood protection elevation. So the base flood elevation here is 876 feet, and so they need to be at least 2 feet above that, which would be 878. So this development is allowed through a conditional use permit process. They are meeting all the standard requirements for the CUP. When the building's built through the building permit process, they will be subject to additional design standards, and the building will need to be certified that it's flood proof on that lower level that's in the floodplain. For public outreach, notice of public hearing was sent by newspaper and to property owners within the 350 feet of the site. The proposed development sign is out on the property, and to date there's only 1 public comment that's been submitted. The conditions in the staff report are to revise the documents prior to city council consideration. As I mentioned, some of the additional conditions are this elevation certificate must be submitted to verify that it's flood proofed, and then also the public easement in favor of the city needs to be recorded for the sidewalk along Colorado Avenue. So staff's recommendations are to have the public hearing, take testimony, and close the public hearing, and then make a motion to recommend approval of the preliminary and final plat and conditional use permit subject to the conditions recommended by staff.
Thank you. Are there any questions from commissioners prior to the public hearing?
I have one, Chair. This is Commissioner Weber. Can you just clarify on the sidewalks? The sidewalk is still being built, right? This is just to say that it's going to inch in past where it usually would be in the public right-of-way. Do I have that right?
Yeah, so one way of getting the sidewalk would be for the applicant to dedicate land for the sidewalk. Because that involves giving up some of the square footage, and so in order to accommodate what they're proposing, their preference is to have the easement recorded to allow that sidewalk rather than dedicating it. So, yeah, and a portion of it will be in the right-of-way, it's just not, the full
Not the
5
whole
feet
thing.
can't fit in the right-of-way.
And this may be a question for you, Sean, but can you just remind us, when the other medical building that we approved about a year or so ago, was this in any way part of that, or was it in any way listed as a possibility that this would be happening?
Commissioner, I'm Sean Walther, Planning Manager for City of St. Louis Park, and in response to your question, no, at that time, this was not necessarily on the radar.
Okay.
I think the applicant could speak to this more, but they've just had a really great success in, with the tenants filling in that building and demand for additional surgery space, essentially. And so that is what they're trying to accommodate for those tenants and others that may be interested in that type of facility.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got curious about the history of flooding in that area. Is there any history of flooding in that area, or any of the structures experience any flooding?
Commissioner Salzer, I would say that I believe that there has been, but I am not clear on the extent of that. But certainly through our recent comprehensive planning, we've been able to better define the elevation where the flooding will occur. This is an area that's undefined right now in FEMA flood maps, and so it doesn't really track with the elevations that are out there. But we've done a substantial amount of surface water modeling in the city using the latest rainfall data totals that were updated from 1960s and 2014. So we're pretty confident that the elevations that are being generated here are accurate.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, we'll open the public hearing then. This public hearing is open. Is there anyone who wishes to speak?
Yes, about the requested permit coming up.
Okay, would you go to the microphone, please?
Oh, okay.
No. And does the applicant wish to speak?
Chair Beneke and Planning Commission members, thank you so much for considering our application tonight. Our first building has done remarkably well. We've fully leased the building with great medical providers. They're now convinced, what we tried to convince them several years ago, that St. Louis Park is in the middle of the entire metropolitan area, and it's been fantastic for their clinics. They're all full. They're all busy, and they're very excited about the new business that they've developed here in St. Louis Park. So because of that, I've owned the building at 6301 for the last 5 years. It wasn't intended to potentially be an expansion site. I actually naively thought that I could move that billboard sign over to 6301, which of course was slapped and told to go away. But in any event, it gives us a nice opportunity. We tried very hard to actually buy the entire block, which we haven't been able to do, unfortunately. But we do have an agreement with the owner to the south of our property to allow us to do this building. And we, although we don't have a tenant lined up today, we expect that once we have approval for the plans, we'll be able to find tenants for that, and or an expansion of the surgery center that expanded over the construction period to 8 ORs and is fully booked at this point. in terms of what they think their capacity is. So it's been, phase one, which was 80,000 feet, has been a great success for us, and we'd like to build more space there to accommodate the tenants that want to be there. I've got Matt O'Keefe, our architect from Synergy Architecture. As you saw from the pictures, it essentially replicates the nice finishes that we put on phase one, and we plan to do that on phase two. But we're here to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.
Does anyone else wish to speak? I'll close this public hearing. Are there any comments from commissioners? Or a motion?
I move that we approve the preliminary and final plat and the conditional use permit. Sorry, I move that we recommend approval of the preliminary and final plat and the conditional use permit as recommended by staff.
Second.
Been a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion passes. So we'll move on to our next order of business. We're going to have a hearing about 2220 Florida Avenue South, the plat and conditional use permit. The applicant is Martin Bell, and presenter will be Gary Morrison, right?
Thank you, Chair. Members of the Commission, my name is Gary Morrison. I'm the zoning administrator for the city, and I'll be presenting this application for you tonight. The application was submitted to the city by Mr. Martin Bell. He is requesting a conditional use permit for off-site parking and also a preliminary final plat for Bellboy Addition. Starting first with the conditional use permit, we're looking at the property located at 2220 Florida Avenue South, which is on the west side of Florida. And the property is zoned industrial park, and it is currently improved with a office warehouse, which is approximately 26,000 square feet in area. It was constructed in about 1976. There is no on-site parking at this property. Today's zoning ordinance requires 43 parking spaces, and historically, customers and employees have been parking across the street on the east side of Florida at the parking lot also owned by Mr. Bell. So that's the nature of the application today, is to formalize that arrangement. The city code does allow off-site parking. However, it's allowed by conditional use permit with some conditions. And some of those conditions include an easement, a permanent arrangement for these parking spaces to be located off-site. And also sidewalks are required to provide pedestrian way from the parking lot to the, in this case, office warehouse. So those would be made a condition of the approval of the conditional use permit. In addition, tonight we're reviewing an application for a preliminary and final plat of Bellboy Addition, and this is regarding the three properties on the east side of Florida. The desire is to combine these three properties in preparation for the improvement of a 15,000 square foot office warehouse. This property is also zoned industrial park. It's about 1.56 acres combined, and it's currently improved with a parking lot. Again, the intent is to build an office warehouse and to accommodate the off-site parking for the office warehouse building across the street. To take a look at the preliminary plat, we see that it is proposed to have drainage and utility easements around the perimeter, 6 feet on the interior lot lines and 10 feet along the lot lines adjacent to the streets. It is proposed to be one property, known to be Lot 1, Block 1 of Bellboy Addition. It will have frontage on both Florida Avenue to the west and 23rd Street to the south. You'll note it does not include the property on the corner. That property is under ownership by a property across the street that is also using it for off-site parking. So it just wraps around that property as it's shown on the preliminary plat. Of course, the final plat shows the conditions we just talked about with the drainage and utility easements around the perimeter. I will note, kind of set the plat discussion aside for a moment as we look at the proposal for this property as has been presented to staff. As noted, the applicant is wishing to construct a 15,000 square foot office warehouse building, which is shown in red. The proposal would have parking to the north, to the west, and to the south. And that parking lot would have two access points onto Florida and one access point onto 23rd to the south. Of course, the majority of the parking here would be available to the warehouse across the street. Looking at the grading and drainage plan for the property is where staff is still in the process of reviewing. You can see, again, the layout of the property with the building in the middle. Off to the east of the building and along the east property line, there's an existing drainage swale that collects water and it directs it to the south, and that's proposed to be improved to improve that drainage to the south. Located to the south of the building, there is a proposed infiltration trench to be located underneath the parking lot. The inlet is just to the south of the building, and then it drains towards the sewer improvements, existing sewer improvements, stormwater improvements along 23rd Street. This area has a history of localized flooding. It is not part of the mapped FEMA floodplain area. However, it does, in heavy rain events, endure some flooding that impacts not only this property but also adjacent properties in this area. And in heavy events, it may, in times, inundate 23rd Street. So that, of course, is on our minds as this is being reviewed. But right now, as the application has been submitted to the city, there is not enough detail in the stormwater management plan for the city engineer or the watershed district to complete its review. So a request for additional information has been made. And as a result of that, the city is unable to determine, exactly what's needed for easements on the plat. There may be additional drainage and utility easements required on the plat. Therefore, staff is recommending to the Planning Commission that we close the public hearing tonight and then motion to table consideration of the applications for the conditional use permit and the preliminary and final plat until June 1st. This would give the applicant time to get the requested information to the city and the watershed and time for us to review it and hopefully bring it to you on June 1st with a recommendation. So with that, I'll take any questions, and also the applicant, Martin Bell, is in the audience too if you have any questions for him.
Do commissioners have any questions?
Can you just clarify why we would, if it's going to come back to us for approval, why do we need to table it? Why not just have waited? Can you just clarify that for me?
I'm sorry, if you can state the second half of it? Either.
Yeah, so we're being asked to table this, but it would come back to us, right?
Correct.
So is that just a Robert's Rules thing? Like, why not have just waited to bring this to us?
Well, I think we're looking to take care of all the issues at the planning stage before we make a recommendation to the city council. So ideally, like I mentioned, staff will get everything reviewed and be able to present it to the Planning Commission, because there may be some substantive changes we don't know at this time.
Okay.
But we would like to present the full, complete application to the Planning Commission so you can make a recommendation to the council.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Weber, what I would add to that, in preparation for a public hearing like this, we need to send out notices about 3 weeks in advance to the newspaper.
I see.
And so at the time that we received the application, it appeared to be complete. And so we advanced with scheduling the public hearing. And it wasn't until subsequently that we realized that the level of detail wasn't there that was required. And so we decided to proceed this evening with the public hearing because we had already noticed it, and then provide additional time for kind of the technical review elements of this to catch up and then bring back to you before you make any recommendations.
Thank you. And these are both across the street, both sets are the same owner? They are the same owner?
They are the same owner, yes.
Okay, so then right now it's just a parking lot and everyone on the west side parks in the parking lot. Now you're going to build the building, but you're still going to have enough parking for the folks across the street, right?
Correct. That is the intent
Okay.
with the application.
And sidewalks are being added?
Correct.
too. Okay, great.
I have a question. Can we still have a public hearing and table the issue and then bring it back next time?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kraft, yes, that's an option. So you can hold the public hearing this evening, and you can close the hearing, and then it would come back to you. You would not need to reopen the public hearing at that time, but you could take the testimony that we receive into account when you make that recommendation. Alternatively, if there are issues that you feel are not resolved from the conversations from the public hearing, it is an option to continue the hearing until June 1st, and then that would allow another opportunity for folks to attend and provide comment.
Thank you. I don't know if any of the people here tonight are here for this hearing, but I guess my personal thought is if they have shown up, I'd like to give them the opportunity to speak tonight.
All right, I open the public hearing. Does anyone want to speak on this issue?
Yes.
Oh, go.
This is the first time.
All right. And state your name and address, and try and fill out a blue form sometime tonight.
Okay. Yes, my name's Diana Duclos. This is my husband, Mike, and we are at 6731 Elliott View Road. So we're the first row of houses there, looking down at the industrial park area. Right when we look down, there's Shotwell. So I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we're here about the noise. And there's overwhelming amount of noise that make me want to cry right now. I have it all on my phone, but I know we're not here about Shotwell or any of the other companies, but the loud whistling from the oxygen. I have to run and get my cats, run, put them in the house, shut the doors. It's really loud. My garden's like 20 feet from where this whistling is. And then the new building, the hockey thing's right to the left, and the bright lights that they built, and all the stuff that they roll, it's just through the cement. And then the worst thing, okay, this is why I'm here. I just wanted to make that brief to give you an idea. The noise is unbelievable. The beeping. This morning, we woke up, beep, 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 real loud. And that was, I even have a picture of it, but we assumed when we read this letter that it was going to be like semi-parking, more of it, because there's already semis rolling in at 4 in the morning, backing up, beeping. And I'm sorry that we just kind of assumed that because that's what was happening with a lot of beeping. And then there's a company also that's there that does a lot of forklift all day, and they're picking up stuff and moving it. And the beeping echoes through the buildings and comes and hits us. But this one now, I just wanted to ask, is this for regular parking for people to park their cars? Could I see that one map again? Our house is just like right there. Okay, yeah, our house is, well, yes. Elliott View Road, yep, our house is like right there, yep, right, because there's Shotwell straight down from us, but we get all that noise. Now that's where it's gonna be, and that's where all that beeping is coming from, and it is, I even went a couple of years ago and I spoke with the man, he goes, oh, that's meant for another type of vehicle, but is that, now your proposed parking, is that for cars? Is that for people to park when they're in this new building? Is that it? Because then I didn't even need to come here because...
It is meant for customer and employee cars
Oh,
parking.
okay. I'm sorry, because there's so many semis over there now. I was kind of looking at this and I thought, oh, more semis beeping and backing out, and I just couldn't handle that. I'm sorry, okay, well, I guess that answers our question. But I am going to further with this noise. I was in contact with somebody, and I think they did have them change what kind of an oxygen tank I have. It's like, it was so loud. It would hurt my cats. They wear equipment, and I'm like 20 feet. I said, and I typed up to whoever, I forgot who his name was.
Well,
I said,
I
my
want the,
cats need some of those, and
I
then
want-
so do
I wonder if
I.
the applicant would like to respond to any of
Okay.
this. Are
Can
they
I-
here?
Okay.
Well, do you mind if I ask a quick clarifying question?
Okay.
I'll go to the
Can I just
mayor or
so,
someone.
I understand what you're saying about the noise, and I'm very sorry
Yeah.
that's happening.
And-
But I need to clarify: is the noise coming from these exact businesses, or is it coming from other businesses around there?
Oh.
Because if it's not coming from Bellboy,
Right,
we're limited
that's
in what we
why
can
I
talk
wanted
about
to clarify. if-
tonight.
oh.
So I just want to clarify. Do you
Oh,
know?
Bellboy, what does Bellboy do?
I don't actually know either, but it's,
'Cause I went
but it's
over-
not the only business there. So I want to make sure that when you have a noise complaint,
Yeah,
that if it's not this business, then this may not
right,
be the right
pertain
place to
to it,
talk
right, that's
about
why
it, yeah.
I
So
asked
do you
if it's for
know?
cars.
Do you know where the noise is?
Bellboy, now, I went over there and I spoke with a gentleman a few years ago, and he says this beeping is not meant for this forklift. And now I can't talk to him because they put in a barrier where you can't see in there, but it's a big lot, and it's just got a lot of junk there moving around all day. So I couldn't tell if it was a bellboy, but I'm gonna check into that.
Okay.
And then I'll further with this,
appreciate
whoever
that.
I have to jump
Okay.
leap boundaries,
you.
but if this is just for cars, then I guess I don't have a problem with that. As long as they don't leave it beeping like some of them do, and, you know, they're inside and it goes off. And okay,
All right.
all right, well,
Well, thank
thank you
you.
for your time, appreciate it.
Thanks.
Does anyone else want to speak on this motion? And is the applicant here to make any comments, or do you want to make any comments? You don't have to. but- Do you wish to say anything?
We've been, I should fill this out. We've been in the neighborhood about 40 years, and there are some sheet metal plants right either side of us. So I don't know if it's the sheet metal plants that are producing sounds and noise or shaking, but we don't have that kind of operation, we just have warehousing. And we've been there, about 40 years in that building. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
What was your name again?
Martin Bell.
Lauren Bell.
I don't have any questions, but thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? And I'll close the public hearing. Are there any comments from commissioners? Okay.
I was just going to add, Chair, if I can, for the folks who did speak up, and I appreciate you coming, I just wanted to clarify what happened there, because we're limited in what we can rule on, and it sounds like from the applicant that the noise might not actually be coming from the business in question tonight. So what I would recommend is for you, like, I understand that's a problem, like, I get it, like, that's a noise, right? You can contact your city council member. There are people probably here at the city you could call as well to just talk about that. And again, it sounds like in this one case, while there is a noise, it's not coming from this exact business. So I would recommend finding out who your city council member is. Maybe Sean, you want to add anything to that as well to help?
Thanks, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Weber. Yes, actually, I would recommend that you contact city staff, and so we're familiar with the issue. I'm going to recommend that you contact Gary Morrison first, and then we can refer you to others if needed. But we can walk through, what the rules are, and if there are things that are happening that are out of bounds, we'd be happy to pursue that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Any other comments? Not, I have the motion in front of me. Maybe I can read it. Right. Make a motion to table the preliminary and final plat of Bellboy Edition to the June 1st, 2022 Planning Commission as recommended by staff, and also a motion to table, combined motion, to table the conditional use permit to the June 1st, 2022 Planning Commission meeting as recommended by staff. Is there a second?
I don't mean to be finicky, but can the chair make a motion, Sean, or is that okay? I just want to make sure we're doing this right.
I think that he is able to
Okay.
make a motion.
Then I'll second it. So I didn't mean to jump on you there,
Okay.
Jim.
All right, been a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right, Motion passes. All right, so we're on to our third public hearing of the night. It's Chick-fil-A Planned Unit Development, PUD Amendment. The applicant is Todd Richards of HR Green on behalf of Chick-fil-A. And Jeff Miller will be presenting again.
Thank you, Chair Beneke. And I was remiss, Sean asked me to introduce myself. I'm Jeff Miller. I'm a consulting planner for the city for an interim period of time. So you won't see me forever. So just wanted to make that clear. Yeah, I'm going to present the application for an amendment to the PUD for the Chick-fil-A building and site. The applicant is Todd Richards with HR Green on behalf of Chick-fil-A. The PUD in that area for the shops at Knollwood is PUD 10, and since the original Chick-fil-A development was approved as part of that PUD 10, any changes to it require an amendment to the PUD. As you may know, it's at Knollwood. The actual address is 8820 Highway 7. Comp plan guides the property for commercial. Zoning's the PUD 10, as I stated. Parcel size is a little bit less than 1 acre. It's a 5,000 square foot building, and the current use of the site is a drive-through restaurant. As I said, the PUD for this development was approved in 2017 when Chick-fil-A was originally built here. It was approved with a 2-lane drive-through for a portion of the site, so on the south side and then part of the east side. And as you go around the east side, after you've ordered your food, it becomes 1 lane. So it's not a full 2-lane drive-through facility today. While COVID dining restrictions were in place, the applicant was using a temporary structure, which I saw today. A portion of that structure is still there, the frame of it. So they had a canopy over the drive-through lanes that protected workers from the weather as we all survived the COVID pandemic. The tent has been removed. The structure looks like it's still there today, but the restrictions have ended, so they want to do something more permanent. So they're applying for an amendment to the PUD to convert the drive-through lane operation to 2 lanes, the entire operation, so south, east, and on the north side. And also adding 2 canopies, one on the south side that's kind of a little bit separated from the building in appearance, and then the north side, which is a kind of a suspended or cantilevered canopy. Site plan shows, I think pretty clearly, that you can see 2 lanes going all the way around the building. As I said today, halfway on the east side it becomes a 1 lane, and then on the north side it's 1 lane as well. The applicant has submitted elevations showing what the new structures will look like, the canopy structures. As far as landscaping, Chick-fil-A at the time it was originally constructed was approved for 8 trees. As part of this operation, 1 tree on the east side needs to be relocated, so you can see that where that's going to be relocated, the green circle on the east side. And then they're also proposing to add 4 additional trees on the north side of the property. We did analyze the PUD 10 requirements for a drive-through is defined as an in-vehicle sales or service accessory use. In this PUD, it's a permitted use, and there's these 7, I guess, 7 standards that they are meeting. I don't know if I need to say anything more about that. So the 2-lane drive-through configuration, the addition of the canopies are consistent with those standards. The materials of the canopy are required to match the design and materials of the building's existing entrance canopies. They are proposing black pre-finished metal, which does match what's out there today when you drive by it. There's also some special performance standards that require awnings have to be either heavy canvas fabric, metal and/or glass. Plastic, vinyl, and backlit awnings are not allowed. And as I said, they're proposing a black pre-finished metal, which matches the details of the building today. So this is a public hearing. So there could be testimony tonight from the public. Pending a recommendation from the Planning Commission, the council would see this on June 6th at their meeting, and staff recommends approval of the amendment to PUD 10.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners?
This is Commissioner Wilson. I think what's been proposed, I understand why to do it today. Can you provide any history in terms of why it wasn't put forth with 2 lanes in the first place? Maybe I missed that part.
My name is Joe Veterino with HR Green, so Todd couldn't make it tonight. I'm pinch hitting for him. But so when we initially developed the site back in 2017, the model that was pushed forward was what Chick-fil-A was doing at that time. And really the 2 lanes that you see here today is really an initiative that was born out of COVID, and something that Chick-fil-A looked at as we were all experienced it. Dining rooms closed, drive-through lane, everything went through the drive-through lane. They had to look for another means to try and get traffic through a little bit quicker. So all the stores that I would say from last year's 2021 moving forward all have the 2 lanes all the way through. So I think the one that they just opened in, that's probably closest to here, would be Arden Hills. That one has a full 2 lanes all the way through. So now Chick-fil-A is looking at all the stores they've developed since and looking at doing this very thing, trying to open them up to 2 lanes.
Got it. Thank you.
I don't know if this is for you or for the city staff. I was actually surprised when I saw this, that those 2 lanes will fit on the north side. That seems cramped up there, but this is all doable without any major reconstruction up there. You can refit it. You can fit that all in there.
We can.
Okay.
Yep.
So, from a traffic flow standpoint, my recollection is are we changing the traffic flow? Because it looks like it's traveling from, and it's coming in from the bottom, it's coming in from the west, going along along Highway 7 and then wrapping around.
Yep.
Whereas currently it almost seems like a U where people are coming in right by the right along the west side of the store itself, and then feeding into the drive.
Traffic flow should still be the same. So, I mean, they'll still have the ability to come in from either the north access point or the south and circle into that, the entry, and then basically it's the same traffic flow in and out. So really, we're just expanding the lanes inside. We're not changing the traffic flow.
Okay.
Those the rush hours at this store are no joke with traffic. Is this a way to help that?
Absolutely.
What have you learned during COVID about how to affect traffic flow in those rush hours?
Sure. So I'll just kind of walk you through the whole concept and initiative. So actually, Chick-fil-A has coined this as a dual flex lane, and it's really to provide the operator the ability to do a number of things with that outside lane, and depending on where they're at in the business, or during the peak. So in your non-peak hours, they could use that outside lane as a bypass. They don't necessarily have to use it for 2 full lanes all the time because they're not going to have the traffic to support that. But in those peak hours, the intent would be, and you probably saw during COVID, where they had their team members out there with the temporary structure taking physical orders. There'll be anywhere from 4 to 6 team members that'll be taking orders on iPads. And then the same thing will happen up at the building where they'll have team members that'll be actually handing orders out into both lanes. So what the other piece will be is they'll change the door, the pickup window will turn into an actual door that will act as a pickup window. So during regular times, not peak times, it'll be a pickup window like any other QSR, quick service drive-through. But in the peaks, that'll actually turn into a door so that people can go in and grab orders out of the cockpit faster and then get them out to the individuals in lane 2 or lane 1, and then get people to move through quicker. So this initiative is to move cars through quicker. The ones that they've already opened, they've opened quite a few since the end of 21 into 22, and a lot of great feedback from all the operators that it's been a major improvement.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
I guess we're ready to open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. Does anyone want to speak on this issue?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Okay, go ahead.
My name is William Grovey. I live on Texas Avenue. I'm just curious, I got this in the mail, this nice drawing. I'm just curious why there isn't a proposed canopy over the north side, if there's going to be another lane there. And it's not a criticism, whatever, or it's just, it seems if they're going to have two, I see the canopy on the south side it covers both lanes, and then with the proposed additional lane on the north side, the drawing doesn't even cover the one lane. So, and it's just a curiosity thing.
Well, maybe we could have questions answered at the end. Do you have any other comments right now? We'll have them answer any questions at the end here, but.
Okay. Let's see. All right.
Does anyone else wish to speak on this issue? All right. Does the applicant want to perhaps answer that question and have any last comments?
Be happy to. Trust me, if we could, we would definitely be doing that. But there are a ton of utilities along that north line, and there's also existing easements that will not allow a canopy to go inside of it. So unfortunately, because of all the infrastructure that's currently in place and the easement provisions, we just couldn't put a canopy in there. So we had to scale it back to just the canopy over the first lane to stay outside of all the conflicts. Thank you.
That answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you for showing up.
Anyone else wish to speak?
I've got another question for you, if you could. In terms of, so operationally, are people picking up and getting delivered their order on the east side, or are they picking them up on the north side?
Pick up on the north side, by the
Okay.
pickup window.
Okay.
So on where the order point is on the south side, that's just for orders. And then they'll circle around to where the pickup window is today.
Okay.
And that's where they'll get all their orders.
Okay. So, and then the east side is just,
It's just stack,
just for,
just for stack.
okay,
Yep,
awesome, thank you.
thanks.
Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, the public hearing is closed. Is there any discussion from the commissioners?
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the PUD amendment per staff.
A second?
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion passes. Move on to our final public hearing. It's a zoning ordinance amendment related to electronic signs. The applicant is actually the City of St. Louis Park, the Operations and Recreation Department.
Thank you, Chair, members of the commission. Again, my name is Gary Morrison. I'm the zoning administrator for the city, and I'll be presenting this application for you tonight. The application before you is submitted by the Operations and Recreation Department of the City of St. Louis Park. They are requesting a zoning amendment to allow electronic signs up to 40 square feet on parcels over 20 acres in size and zoned residential or park and open space. The purpose is to allow electronic sign faces up to 40 square feet on those properties instead of 20 square feet, which are currently allowed at the rec center and similar sized civic uses throughout the city. So if we look specifically at the rec center, we see that the city is looking to actually install one new sign and replace another. The sign up on the north entrance into the rec center is at the driveway that was recently constructed at the new roundabout. That would be a new sign. Second sign is down here at the south end. It would replace an existing sign at the driveway entrance off of Monterey. Both signs are proposed to have a double-sided electronic signage. Each side would be 40 square feet if this proposal and the zoning amendment is approved. Currently, zoning ordinance would limit the size to 20 square feet on each side. So the regulations before us, as I just mentioned, there's some conditions that are applicable to electronic signage that apply throughout the city. Item A and item C are the two that I highlighted that affect the application before us. You can see on letter A, number 1, 20 square feet is the maximum size allowed for electronic signage in the park and open space and the residential district. All of the properties around the city are allowed up to 40 square feet per sign face. And then item C has a limitation on the sign faces themselves, basically requiring them to be back to back so that you can't see both sides from one point off the property. So if we look at the amendment before you, the city is proposing to take the first one and break it into two components. The first one would be a limitation of 20 square feet for properties that are less than 20 acres in area and zoned residential or park and open space, and then to allow up to 40 square feet of sign face area for properties that are 20 acres or greater and also zoned residential and park and open space. And then, of course, the third item there is in existing code today and would not change under this proposal and would still continue to allow 40 square feet in all other districts. So the request here is for the 40 square foot proposal at the rec center would be consistent with other sizes allowed throughout the city. And then if we drop down to item C, we are proposing, since we're looking at two signs at the rec center, if I flip back to that aerial photo, we can see that from anywhere off site here, you can technically see both sign faces. However, the intent here of that provision is to prevent the opportunity to take two 40 square foot faces, stack one on top of the other, and in a sense, get an 80 square foot sign. We can see here, if you're standing at one sign, technically you could see the other sign, but it's 500 feet away and it would be illegible. So it really meets the intent of that provision. So staff has put in a distance requirement between the sign faces. Staff did look at the properties in the city that would be affected by the proposal, and the list of properties was in your staff report and is on the screen right now. Notably, the properties that would be able to take advantage of the amendment include the two high schools, the St. Louis Park High School and Benoit St. Margaret's, the Jewish Community Center, the hospital, both golf courses, and of course the rec center, and then the remaining parcels are city-owned parks. So based on this review, staff is recommending approval that the public hearing be closed and recommending approval of the zoning code text amendment pertaining to electronic signs as presented to the Planning Commission. With that, staff can answer any questions. Also, Jason Isold from the Rec Center Manager is here to answer any questions also.
Are there any questions?
I just have one question, Gary, about, I counted 13 properties, I believe, from that list that would now be eligible for this. Do you have any I mean, some of them are parks, so it would be the city's call, but do you have any indication that there are any takers for this?
Chair, Commissioners, at this time we don't. When we look at the properties, of course, electronic signage is not cheap. Ideally, they're typically situated on higher volume roads than, say, Minneapolis Golf Club or some of the other ones, but I wouldn't be surprised if the high schools take advantage of it or something like that. We have had requests in the past for a community center central, which is not zoned residential or park and open space, so it can already take advantage of the 40 square feet. So there is some interest out there, but I have not had any interest in any of these yet.
Okay, thanks.
I was just curious, the signs like outside of Lennox and the church nearby Lennox, I don't know if those count as electronic signs or just the rolling text. Did I remember right that they would actually be out of code for some reason nowadays and they were grandfathered in? Maybe I have that totally wrong.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, they should meet code in the size limitations of 20 square feet. They shouldn't be scrolling, though. They're supposed to be static images.
Oh, I thought they scrolled, maybe. I remember it wrong.
Well,
Horizontal scroll.
I mean, is there any limitations for how many lumens or how the brightness of these signs? And should that be a concern to any residents who are living near a potential sign? Are they going to be kept up at night?
yes, and thank you. The illumination limitations apply to all signage. So basically, it's the illumination levels that you can expect to see from electronic signage should be consistent with what you see from a typical backlit sign that might be out there. So it's meant to, there should be no difference between the two.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Salzer, I would just add that with the dynamic electronic signage as well, we do require that they have technology included that adjusts to the ambient lighting as well, so that lighting that would be, not appear all that bright during the day, in the evening or at night, it does. So it actually does need to adjust with the ambient lighting as well. So those are all requirements that were already in the standards that are not proposed to change.
I have a question similar. Are there already like limits on hours of when the signs can be on?
Right now, there are no limitations
Okay.
as for the signs.
Going back to the previous question about static or the images that can be displayed, these are going to be dynamic signs, so they're going to be changing periodically. I mean, what's the frequency? Or we're going to be showing videos on it? YouTube?
The images are supposed to be static, so there should be no animation, and the static image has to display for at least 3 seconds.
3 seconds, okay.
And then it's an instant change to the next message.
No more questions? Open the hearing. Public hearing is open. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Does the applicant wish to add anything? Or Jason? All right. Close the public hearing. Are there any further discussion? Or motion?
I move that we approve the zoning code text amendment pertaining to electronic signs.
I second the motion.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion carries. All right, that's it for our public hearings. Next on the agenda is other business. I think there's at least one other piece of other business.
Mr. Chair, I'm here to present an item to you this evening related to the Beltline Station Development, which is located on the southeast corner of County State Aid Highway 25 and Beltline Boulevard. You should be familiar with this. You've recently made several actions to approve the comprehensive plan amendment, preliminary plat, some vacations I think the council was involved with, as well as the plan unit development for this site, and maybe some others that I'm forgetting to list. It's a complicated project. But this evening, what we're asking for is for the Planning Commission to make a finding that the city's sale of some land, the Economic Development Authority's sale of some land, is consistent with both the comprehensive plan and the zoning. So just as a reminder, the site location, again, is on the southeast corner of CSA 25 and Beltline Boulevard, just next to the future Green Line extension Beltline Station. And 3 of the parcels are currently owned by the Economic Development Authority or City of St. Louis Park. Sherman Associates owns the 4th component of it. The city has already authorized the transfer of its property to the Economic Development Authority, and that will eventually be proposed as in the outlined parcel on the screen right now to be transferred to Sherman Associates or the developers, the development entity. And so again, this project or this site has been guided for transit-oriented development, and zoned for a planned unit development that essentially establishes the site plan and the building conditions that are allowed, including those shown on the screen and the site plan that has been shared with you previously. The goals of the comprehensive plan and the consistency with those items were listed in the staff report and have been presented at previous meetings, so I won't do that this evening to spare some time. But the recommended action this evening is a motion to adopt the resolution that's included in your packet, finding that the proposed Economic Development Authority land sale for Beltline Station Development is in conformance with the comprehensive plan with the city of St. Louis Park. And I'll stand for any questions.
No, I have no questions.
All right. So we're ready for a motion? I take it this doesn't need a public hearing or?
There is no
All
public
right.
hearing.
Is there a motion?
I move we adopt this resolution that finds the proposed EDA sale for the Beltline development is in conformance with the comprehensive plan for the city.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Are there any other communications?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have a few communications this evening. I'll be brief, though. First of all, your regularly scheduled meeting for next week, May 18th, is canceled, so we will not be meeting. There were no applications that were prepared for that meeting. Your next meeting will be on June 1st. We are expecting at least to have a conditional use permit public hearing for Soda Clothing, who is proposing to use a portion of its space for an assembly use for public meetings and events, and that requires a conditional use permit. And it's expected, the item that was tabled this evening, 2220 Florida, that preliminary and final plat and CUP will be brought back to you that evening, provided the information is presented that we need. One thing I would like to also note is that we'll likely have 2 new commissioners for the June 1st meeting. The city council is scheduled to appoint to fill the vacancies that are present on May 16th. So we'll all know more at that time who those individuals will be. And then I wanted to note that Commissioner Wilson, it looks like this will be your last planning commission meeting, as you did not reapply to be on the commission. So I want to take a moment and thank you for your service with the commission. That's all I have for communications this evening.
All right. Thank you. That concludes our meeting. I adjourn the meeting.